The world never plays fair. No matter how honest you are, someone will betray you. No matter how skilled you become, someone less qualified will take your spot. That's reality. But those who understand this reality, they survive. And those who survive, they rule. This is a power you can't see, but everyone feels it. This is dark intelligence. Dark intelligence is born when people get betrayed, humiliated, and defeated. Others break down, but you build strength from that pain. It's the kind of intelligence that listens, watches, stays quiet, and strikes at the perfect moment. While others argue, you gather information. While they get angry, you calculate. While they drown in emotions, you plan the future. Most people play checkers. You're about to learn how to play chess. But before we dive deep, let me be crystal clear. This knowledge is for protection, not destruction. Use it to defend yourself, not to hurt innocent people. The goal is to understand the game, not to become the villain. Today, you'll discover the 8 psychological traits that separate survivors from victims, leaders from followers, winners from losers. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose to be strategically intelligent, not emotionally reactive. Now, let's unlock the secrets that powerful people don't want you to know. Number 1. Calculated opacity. You're never completely clear about your intentions. You show only what's necessary. When people know half the story, they fill in the blanks with their imagination. And that imagination, it controls them. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Think about the most intriguing people you know. They never tell you everything. They leave gaps in their stories. They answer questions with questions. They smile when you expect them to frown. This isn't about lying. This is about strategic communication. Here's what happens in most conversations. Someone asks you a question, and you feel obligated to give them a complete answer. You explain your motivations, your fears, your plans. You think you're being honest and building trust, but you're actually giving away your power. Smart people understand that mystery creates influence. When you don't reveal everything, people become curious. Curiosity leads to interest. Interest leads to respect. And respect leads to influence. Let's say someone asks about your weekend plans. Most people say, "Oh, I'm just staying home, maybe watching some movies." That's complete transparency, but it's also completely forgettable. Instead, you could say, "I have something important to take care of." Then change the subject. Notice the difference. The first answer makes you predictable. The second answer makes you interesting. This doesn't mean being rude or secretive about everything. It means being selective about what you share and when you share it. The most successful people in any field master this principle. They reveal just enough to keep people engaged, but never enough to lose their advantage. Your information is your currency. Don't spend it all at once. When you practice calculated opacity, people start paying more attention to what you say, because they know you don't say everything. Your words carry more weight because they're rare. Remember, the goal isn't to be mysterious for the sake of being mysterious. The goal is to maintain control over your narrative and your relationships. Number 2. Adaptive persona. You're not the same person with everyone. You adjust your personality based on who you're talking to. People think they know you, but they only know one version of you. Machiavelli once said, "A prince ought to take care that he never lets anything slip from his lips that is not replete with the 5 qualities mentioned above, that he may appear to him who sees and hears him altogether merciful, faithful, humane, upright, and religious." This isn't about being fake. This is about being effective. You already do this naturally. You speak differently to your grandmother than you do to your friends.
You act differently in a job interview than you do at a party. You present different aspects of your personality in different situations. Adaptive persona takes this natural tendency and makes it intentional. Every person you meet has different values, different communication styles, and different ways of processing information. If you use the same approach with everyone, you'll connect with some people and completely miss others. Intelligent individuals analyze exactly who they are interacting with and calibrate their approach accordingly. If the person is analytical, provide them with hard evidence and statistics. If they operate on emotion, resonate with their feelings. If they are pragmatic, demonstrate utility and function. If they are visionaries, discuss the grand concept. This is not about manipulating others. It is about communicating with high intelligence. Think about water. Water takes the shape of whatever container it's in, but it never loses its essential nature. It's still water, whether it's in a cup, a bottle, or a lake. Your adaptive persona works the same way. You adjust your presentation to fit the situation, but you never lose your core values and principles. The mistake most people make is thinking they need to be authentic in the same way with everyone. But authenticity doesn't mean being identical in every situation. It means being genuinely yourself while adapting your expression to be most effective. When you master adaptive persona, you become someone who can connect with anyone. People feel understood when they're with you because you're speaking their language. This skill becomes incredibly powerful in negotiations, leadership situations, and building relationships. You're not trying to force people to understand you. You're making it easy for them to connect with you. But here's the warning. Never adapt so much that you lose yourself. Your values, your integrity, your core principles should never change. Only your presentation should adapt. The strongest people are like diamonds. They have many facets, but they're still one solid stone. The principle of detachment.
You are not subservient to any connection, feeling, or viewpoint. That which you are willing to let go of cannot hold sway over you. What cannot restrict you is equally incapable of manipulating you. Niccolo Machiavelli observed, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." Non-attachment, the misunderstood strategy. Detachment is perhaps the most frequently misinterpreted idea within strategic intelligence. Many mistakenly equate it with being emotionally cold or indifferent. This is incorrect. It signifies true liberation. The majority of people are governed by their attachments. They tolerate poor treatment because they dread losing their job. They undermine their own principles to preserve a relationship. They conform their speech to secure validation rather than stating necessary truths. A terror of loss renders you vulnerable. Freedom from that terror makes you potent. This is not a mandate to disregard everything, but rather a warning against desperation for anything. Consider a simple scenario, a business negotiation. Party A absolutely requires this deal to close. They have predicated their entire future on it. Party B desires the deal, but has several viable alternatives and is completely prepared to terminate discussions if the terms are unfavorable. Who commands the greater influence? Clearly, Party B, because their lack of fixation on the outcome allows them to negotiate from a position of strength. Detachment as a catalyst for clarity. Emotional distance provides clarity. When you are not deeply invested in proving yourself right, you can perceive situations without bias. When you don't crave approval, you become capable of making superior decisions. When the prospect of solitude holds no fear, you can select more meaningful relationships. The central paradox is this:
The less you need a specific outcome, the greater your likelihood of attaining it. Observe genuinely confident individuals. Their confidence is not born from constant success, but from the secure inner knowledge that they will manage even in the face of setbacks. That is the true leverage of non-attachment. This state is not synonymous with recklessness or apathy. You must still pursue your goals diligently and genuinely care about your connections. However, you must never permit your attachment to any singular outcome to compromise your capacity for clear thought and tactical action. Furthermore, detachment serves as an insulator against manipulation. When an adversary attempts to exert control by threatening to remove something you are not worried about losing, their threat is instantly nullified. The individual who is truly powerful is the one who has everything to gain and nothing to dread. Cultivate this quality gradually. Begin with small things. Loosen your grip on the desire to win every debate, to be universally adored, or for every plan to unfold precisely as visualized. As this expertise develops, you will notice a shift. People will afford you more deference. They will recognize your inability to be easily controlled, which naturally commands respect. Remember, detachment is not the absence of care. It is caring without being controlled by that care. You exert pressure indirectly. When others expose their vulnerabilities through errors, your composed, quiet presence becomes the most significant, heavy force in the environment. Machiavelli also famously stated, "Never was anything great achieved without danger." Most people equate power with noise, with shouting, issuing ultimatums, and aggressively imposing one's will. This is a novice's approach. True power operates through suggestion. Silent leverage is the refined skill of generating influence without uttering unnecessary words. It is the strategy of arranging yourself such that your mere presence fundamentally alters the dynamic of any exchange.
The technique involves shifting from explicit instruction to creating circumstances where others instinctively align their actions with your strategic advantage. Instead of demanding respect, you become essential. Instead of struggling for authority, you prompt others to willingly grant it to you. In conversation, silent leverage means understanding the effectiveness of the pause. Most people are uncomfortable with silence and rush to fill the void, often revealing more than intended. When you are comfortable with silence, you dictate the rhythm. When posed a challenging question, do not rush the reply. Hold their gaze thoughtfully. Allow the silence to hang for a few seconds before delivering your response. Notice the increased gravity and impact of your words. In negotiation, silent leverage is anchored by having viable alternatives that you never need to mention. If the counterparty knows you have options, they must negotiate differently. A threat to withdraw is unnecessary. Your demonstrated willingness to withdraw is sufficient. In relationships, silent leverage means consistently providing value without seeking applause or immediate acknowledgement. By making other people's lives consistently better, you create a natural desire for them to maintain the connection. Loyalty is not demanded. It is earned through persistent, valuable action. In professional settings, silent leverage involves establishing yourself as the definitive source for solutions. You don't need to proclaim your problem-solving role. Simply solve problems reliably and consistently until everyone instinctively relies on you. The cornerstone of this approach is patience. You are not pursuing immediate victories, but constructing long-term influence. While many seek instant gratification, silent leverage operates differently. You plant seeds and wait for the harvest. You make strategic investments and wait for the returns. This demands a different mental framework. You must embrace delayed gratification and trust that your steady efforts will eventually yield the desired influence. The outcome of mastery. What is the result of mastering silent leverage? People will seek your counsel without you offering it. They will desire your approval without you demanding it. They will follow your lead without you needing to issue a command. You become the subtle force that shapes outcomes, often without others recognizing the source of the shift. An important ethical point remains. Silent leverage should never be used to compel people into self-damaging actions. Its highest and most ethical application is to guide individuals toward decisions that benefit themselves and the broader group. You are not tricking them, but influencing them toward mutually beneficial outcomes. Silent leverage is fundamentally active. You are constantly strategizing, moving, and acting, but with quiet, profound effect. You are simply executing it subtly and strategically rather than with noise and obvious display. Number 5. Psychological resonance. Echo. You skillfully mirror people's deepest inherent requirements and anxieties back to them. They perceive that you are communicating in their native language, yet in reality, you are acquiring insight and escalating your influence. Machiavelli wisely noted, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, because everybody can see and few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." Psychological resonance is the deliberate act of positioning yourself as a reflective surface, projecting back what people fundamentally need to witness. This is not a mechanism for deceit. It is a discipline of profound comprehension and careful communication. People do not merely acquire products, services, or ideas. They invest in remedies for their afflictions and the realization of their aspirations. When you can correctly identify and affirm their underlying needs, you become immensely valuable to them.
This because their attention is focused on their own desire to speak, rather than on what the other person requires to hear. How psychological resonance functions. To practice this effectively, you must become a dedicated observer of human nature. You must internalize the fact that every person you encounter carries unseen emotional burdens, secret hopes, and unstated fears. Your function is to actively seek clues regarding these internal states. When a colleague discusses their professional life, they are revealing more than data. They are exposing their self-perception, their core values, and their worries. When someone speaks of their personal relationships, they are displaying their emotional architecture and their most urgent requirements. Most people listen only to formulate a rebuttal. You must listen to truly absorb and comprehend. Here is a simple guiding model. Every person you meet is silently posing 3 questions. Am I visible to you? Do you understand my situation? Do you value my presence? When your actions and words consistently affirm all 3, you forge an exceptionally strong bond. The technique of psychological resonance involves reflecting back not just the semantic content of a person's speech, but their underlying meaning. You listen for the emotional impetus behind the spoken word, the core need driving the complaint, and the anxiety fueling the anger. For instance, if someone declares, "I despise my career," a common response is offering job-seeking advice. However, if you listen more deeply, you might perceive they actually feel unappreciated, stagnated, or insecure about their trajectory. A resonant response would be, "It sounds like you feel that your significant contributions aren't being adequately recognized," or, "It seems you are ready for a role that pushes your abilities further." Do you observe the crucial difference? Instead of hastily proposing solutions, you are validating their emotional reality. This validation cultivates a feeling of being understood, which in turn builds trust and influence. A key refinement is to reflect the positive interpretation of their negative expression. If they complain of being overworked, you reflect their profound dedication and high standards. If they express deep frustration with an outcome, you reflect their innate drive for excellence. This method works because the need to feel fundamentally understood is a deep human imperative. When you successfully demonstrate that you genuinely perceive their inner world, they automatically trust your judgment and grant greater weight to your perspectives. Strategic application. The true potency of this technique lies here. Once you grasp a person's foundational needs and fears, you can present your proposals, ideas, and requests in terms that perfectly align with their psychological profile. If their primary concern is security, you frame your concepts in terms of stability and assurance. If they value recognition, you present your ideas emphasizing achievement and public acknowledgement. If they seek freedom, you frame your suggestions around independence and choice. You are not altering your core message, but you are tailoring its presentation to match their unique psychological blueprint. This is an unparalleled tool in leadership, commerce, education, and personal relationships. When people feel understood at this profound level, they are naturally inclined to collaborate with you, follow your lead, and advocate for you.
Pragmatic morality, ambiguous ethics. You are neither exclusively virtuous nor inherently flawed. You simply achieve results. Genuine power seldom resides in clear black and white distinctions. Often, it thrives in the nuanced gray areas. Machiavelli stated, "Since it is difficult to join them together, it is safer to be feared than to be loved when one of the two must be lacking." This concept, pragmatic morality, is the most contentious aspect of strategic intelligence and the most widely misunderstood. It is vital to clarify its meaning. Pragmatic morality does not signify a lack of ethics. It does not imply engaging in indiscriminate actions regardless of consequence, nor does it advocate for harming people for personal gain. What it truly means is recognizing that the world operates on complex realities. Sometimes, prioritizing the seemingly good action in the short term leads to severely detrimental long-term outcomes. Sometimes being overly permissive, being nice, enables and entrenches negative behavior. Occasionally, the necessary protective measures for the many require making decisions that are inherently unpleasant. The reality is this: absolute moral clarity is a privilege that evaporates when individuals are confronted with intricate situations involving profound, real-world ramifications. Illustrative examples. Consider a leadership role where you discover a team member is repeatedly misleading clients, thereby damaging your organization's reputation. The conventional, nice approach might be to offer numerous second chances, provide additional training, and hope for improvement. However, what is the consequence for the honest team members? What about the clients who have been deceived? What about the sustained health of the enterprise? An individual guided by pragmatic morality might determine that safeguarding the interests of the majority outweighs the need to be kind to the one. They would execute the difficult yet necessary choice to remove that individual from the team despite the emotional cost. This is not cruelty. It is disciplined, pragmatic ethics. As another example, a friend seeks your counsel regarding a relationship that is clearly toxic and destructive. The comforting response might be to offer unwavering support while avoiding any negative observations. However, a person operating with pragmatic morality might conclude that genuine kindness demands speaking a difficult, painful truth, even if it causes temporary distress. The guiding principle here is a fixed focus on outcomes rather than superficial appearances. The action that appears benevolent on the surface can often generate catastrophic results.
Conversely, the action that appears overly strict or harsh externally can often generate superior results for every party involved. This demands a distinct approach to ethical reasoning. Instead of posing the question, what choice will make me appear morally righteous, you must ask, what choice will maximize the positive outcomes for the largest number of individuals? This mindset also mandates taking full ownership of the ramifications of your decisions, even when those decisions are unpopular or extremely difficult. The crucial distinction. Here is the critical difference. Pragmatic morality is not equivalent to selfishness. You are not pursuing personal gain at the expense of others. You are committing to making practical decisions that genuinely serve the collective welfare, even if those choices are personally taxing or emotionally challenging. This attribute also involves an acute awareness that different contexts require varying ethical responsibilities. For instance, absolute transparency might be the correct standard in an intimate personal relationship, but it could be counterproductive in certain business negotiations where a strategic managed disclosure is more effective. The individual possessing pragmatic morality understands these subtleties and adjusts their method accordingly. The inherent risk of this strategic approach is its potential misuse to rationalize self-serving or destructive conduct. Therefore, it is paramount that you maintain strict, defined ethical standards regarding what you will and will not do, even when navigating complex scenarios. My advice is to preemptively establish personal boundaries. What are your core, non-negotiable principles? What lines are you fundamentally unwilling to cross? What scope of consequences are you prepared to bear responsibility for? Operating within these self-imposed limits, grant yourself the latitude to be pragmatic and strategic, even if your decisions meet with disapproval or confusion from others. Remember, the objective is not universal approval. The objective is to be effective and principled in a complex reality where simplistic solutions frequently fail. Number 7. Intentional reserve, controlled exposure. You refrain from divulging everything about yourself. The less knowledge people possess concerning you, the less they are capable of doing to influence or harm you. The less information you offer, the more people are forced to make assumptions, and these assumptions introduce errors that facilitate your strategic movements. Machiavelli famously said, "Men are so simple of mind and so much dominated by their immediate needs that a deceitful person will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived." In a world where individuals openly broadcast nearly every aspect of their lives across digital platforms, intentional reserve might seem anachronistic, yet it is more potent now than ever before. When ubiquitous oversharing is the norm, the individual who shares with purpose stands out. When everyone is announcing their every thought, the person who preserves an element of mystery becomes compelling. Intentional reserve is the measured management of your personal information. It is based on the understanding that not everyone requires complete knowledge of you, and that the strategic selection of what you share can actually deepen your relationships and enhance your influence. The psychology of the gap. The root of this lies in psychology. Human beings are inherently curious. When presented with something incomplete or ambiguous, our minds automatically attempt to fill the informational void. This phenomenon, known as the curiosity gap, is one of the most powerful psychological drivers of attention. By practicing intentional reserve, you strategically create these curiosity gaps, which makes people more fascinated by you and more attentive to the information you choose to provide. Reflect on the most magnetic people you know. They seldom tell the entire story. They share just enough to sustain engagement, but consistently leave you wanting more.
Not accidental. It is tactical. Practical application. In professional environments, intentional reserve means being selective about which concepts you introduce and when you introduce them. It means holding some of your capabilities in reserve, not immediately displaying all of your talents. This knowledge held in reserve allows you to provide significant value precisely when it is most needed. For example, instead of showcasing every skill in the initial week of a new role, you reveal them progressively. This fosters the perception of continuous growth and improvement, rather than a person who has already peaked. In social contexts, this means avoiding the sharing of your complete life history with every acquaintance. It involves dispensing personal details gradually, commensurate with the development of the relationship and the trust that has been earned. This does not equate to being secretive or dishonest. It means being deliberate and strategic about what you reveal and to whom. In negotiation, intentional reserve dictates withholding some of your priorities and limitations. You keep certain information in reserve, enabling you to use it strategically as the negotiation unfolds. The foundational principle is simple. Information disclosed cannot be retracted. Once people know something about you, that knowledge is permanent. Therefore, it is wiser to err on the side of revealing too little rather than excessively much. Timing and audience management. However, intentional reserve extends beyond merely withholding data. It is intrinsically linked to timing. The impact of a piece of information can change entirely based on the context. For instance, revealing a specific skill or achievement too early in a relationship might appear boastful. Conversely, revealing the exact same information later, when it is relevant to solving a shared problem, makes you appear helpful and modest. Furthermore, intentional reserve requires a deep understanding of your audience. Different people require different levels of disclosure, which must align with the relationship's context and status. Your inner circle should possess more intimate knowledge than casual acquaintances. Your business partners require different knowledge than your competitors. Your direct reports need different information than your peers. This is not about adopting a false persona. It is about being strategically appropriate with your personal information. Digital footprint management. Another critical facet of intentional reserve is the management of your digital footprint. Everything you publish online, every comment, every shared image becomes part of your enduring record. People will form conclusions about you based on this information, often without ever meeting you. Strategic individuals are precise about their digital persona. They understand that their digital persona is an active component of their comprehensive strategy for how they wish to be perceived and remembered. The ultimate purpose of intentional reserve is not to cultivate mystery for its own sake, but to maintain control over your personal narrative and your relationships. When you disclose information strategically, you gain the ability to direct how others form perceptions of you. You can underscore the facets of your character and background that are most pertinent to your present objectives. This prevents you from being easily categorized or confined by incomplete knowledge. However, a critical balance must be maintained. You need to share enough to foster authentic connections, but not so much that you forfeit your strategic advantage. The most successful individuals master this equilibrium. They are genuinely open in their relationships, yet they remain tactical regarding the amount and timing of their disclosures.
Number 8. Goal-driven focus. Outcome obsession. Your purpose here is not to prevail in debates or validate mere points of view. Your purpose is to secure concrete results. Individuals who prioritize only the final outcomes never allow themselves to be distracted by unproductive conflicts or unnecessary games. Niccolo Machiavelli observed, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." This attribute is the key differentiator separating the novices from the experts, the dreamers from the high achievers, and the conversationalists from the implementers. The majority of people are sidetracked by trivialities. They prioritize being perceived as correct over being genuinely effective. They value superficial appearance over tangible results. They derive satisfaction from their process rather than achieving their stated goals. Goal-driven focus cuts through this noise. When you are fixated on the outcome, you pose fundamentally different questions. Instead of asking, "How can I substantiate my claim?" you ask, "What is the specific result I'm attempting to create?" Instead of asking, "How can I look good in this scenario?" you ask, "What actions will definitively lead to my desired outcome?" This cognitive transformation alters everything. The strategic handling of conflict. Consider disagreements and arguments. Most people approach them as if they are courtroom battles, focusing on validating their position, exposing inconsistencies in the opponent's logic, and demonstrating intellectual superiority. However, outcome-obsessed individuals handle conflicts differently. They first ask, "What tangible result do I actually want from this exchange?" Perhaps they seek a change in the other person's behavior, a mutually acceptable compromise, or merely a better understanding of the other perspective. Once the desired outcome is crystal clear, they select an appropriate methodology. Sometimes winning the argument is necessary, but often the most effective path lies elsewhere. For example, if your aim is to modify someone's behavior, aggressively proving them wrong might backfire. People often become defensive and more entrenched when feeling challenged. A superior method might be to tactfully guide them toward reaching the correct conclusion independently. If your priority is maintaining a functional relationship while resolving an issue, achieving a solution everyone can endorse is far more critical than establishing who was technically right. Application across domains. This applies across all areas of life. In professional life, goal-driven focus means concentrating on actions that genuinely advance the business, rather than activities that merely make you feel important or look smart. It means prioritizing projects based on their impact, not their visibility, and making decisions based on empirical data and results, not office politics or personal preferences. In personal relationships, it means prioritizing the vitality and happiness of the relationship itself, rather than fixating on who is right or wrong in any given dispute. It means choosing your battles based on their significance, rather than reacting to every minor annoyance. In personal development, it means measuring your progress using concrete achievements, not just effort or good intentions. It demands an honest assessment of what is working and what is not, even when that honesty is uncomfortable. Strategic efficiency. This is where the power of outcome obsession peaks. It helps you sidestep the trap of appearing busy without being productive. Many confuse relentless activity with genuine achievement, assuming hard work automatically guarantees results. Outcome-obsessed individuals understand that significant effort expended on trivial tasks yields zero progress. They constantly evaluate, is this activity genuinely advancing me toward my goal, or am I merely keeping busy to avoid the more demanding, crucial work?